ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. I am Zach Clark. This is the Zach Clark Show. Gladly taking those phone calls at 298-1490, 298-1490. That is the All Pro Plumbing studio line. Check them out, allprorooterandplumbing.com. Happy Friday to all of you out there. It's great to be back. You know, Stacy, I was talking to a coworker of ours in the hallway, and the first thing you said to me, I was like, what? Told me he hadn't had sugar in 6 months.
Yep.
And I said, what are you, Tom Brady? Like, that's insane. How do you do that?
Last year, he actually cut out alcohol. He stopped drinking for an entire year. Just got to stop doing it.
Wait a second. I saw him, not this year, though, right?
No, last year.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, because I'm pretty sure I saw him at the wedding, and it was like, and he said to me that our wedding cake was the first sugar he had in 6 months.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Good for
That'd be
him. I'm not
crazy.
criticizing. I could never do that.
But eating that as your first sugar coming back.
Great call. I thought our wedding cake was great.
It was.
I mean, I'm biased because, we bought it.
It was phenomenal. Wasn't as good as mine, but.
Well, I don't know. I have no point of reference because I didn't get to have any of yours.
I know. I had confetti cake.
Oh, man. I thought I was risque with carrot cake because we had the layers and one of them was carrot. Which a lot of people liked. Carrie was like, nobody's going to like this. And I'm like, nah. Because here's the thing. People would never expect to open a wedding cake and see carrot. Mm-hmm. So those that like carrot cake blew their mind.
Yeah. If carrot cake is done right, it's really good.
Well, my thing, because I'm a child and I like sugar, we were just talking about, carrot cake is good, but I'm all about that cream cheese frosting, boss. That's my drive to carrot cake.
Okay.
Cream cheese frosting. Would it be good with regular frosting? I mean, it's still cake and frosting, but I don't want to be too high on my
stupid question.
Yeah. But, Carrie criticized me she let me pick one of the layers, and I was like, carrot.
Yeah.
Why did I let you pick?
I don't remember what my wife's layer was, but, yeah, I had confetti.
Funfetti. The frosting, too?
No, she wouldn't let me do that.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Well, because it's so obvious.
To draw the line
with the little balls of sugar inside the frosting. Could you imagine? Think of his polka dots, babe. Oh, my God. Funfetti frosting is so good. Hey, how can you make this worse for you? Ooh. What if we had frosting with balls of sugar in it? Genius.
Done.
Put it in a can, put it in a box, sell it to everybody. Diabetes for all. Sold. Erica Weston joins us in studio. That'll be about 5:22. We'll talk D-backs 5:35. And then I didn't do a last call yesterday. I haven't done one in a while because I have not been here. Did Ryan break that rule too?
No, he did. He did somewhat of a last call.
Okay, because he broke like every other rule that I have in this room, so I didn't know. I kid. I know I've said this before, but I want to thank both Ryan Finley and Ross Williamson for what they did while I was gone. Neither one of them had to do what they did, and it's neither one of their jobs to do what they did. So to take time away from their regular role, I suppose, it means a lot to me. It does. And it's good for you, too, because you still retain that 3-hour local block where the show belongs to you and not some national stooge. That's the hope, at least. Last night's NFL draft, one of the most bonkers nights of sports in my life. I mean, ultimately, it may not be that bonkers. Some of the moves that were made may end up being the right moves. We can't know any of that right now. But as far as expectation goes, as far as, I was on 106.3 The Groove yesterday morning talking with Crystal Pino, and she and I were talking about drama, right? Like I said this earlier, my wife loves like Lifetime movies and Teen Mom, right? It's all like uber dramatic where everything all the time is just high drama to the ridiculous degree. That was last night. It was like I got my own Teen Mom last night. The first round of the 2017 NFL Draft is my Teen Mom. It is my awful Lifetime movie. Because it was just so unreal. Every time I watch one of those movies with Carrie, I don't sit through the whole thing, but I'll be passing by and I'll say, that's not realistic. Hey, that never would happen. Because it wouldn't, right? Though I saw the movie Draft Day, and that was about as realistic as any Lifetime movie I've ever seen, and also terrible. Impossible. Hey, Stacey, have you seen that movie?
I have not.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. But I wonder if Ryan Pace watched that movie on like Wednesday night and you said, you know what? That Kevin Costner guy is a genius. We should try that. And then he gets halfway through the final trade in the movie, and then he can't complete it and is just totally screwed.
Didn't he watch him in Tin Cup?
Yeah, or anything else. Or if you know anything about Kevin Costner, only listen to his baseball movies. It's baseball with that guy. Don't get mixed up in the football stuff with Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. Not to Cleveland. Not to Cleveland. Damn it. But Cleveland did a great job last night, by the way.
They did.
I made fun of them heavily before the draft because
it's Cleveland.
It was easy, you know. I'm tired. It was my first day back from vacation. Give me some lobs, you know. Throw me some softballs. Let me sock Cleveland in the gut a couple times. But you know what? They did, and
what they should do.
And sometimes that is harder than it looks. We talk about temptation. If you want to get biblical, we can talk about the apple and the snake and Eve, right? Temptation has been around since day one. And in the NFL, the temptation is to vomit all over yourself like Ryan Pace did. He just yacked everywhere. In fact, he threw up their whole future. Right in one nasty little pile. Right there on the ground somewhere in Chicago.
And it made everybody else throw up and do somewhat of the same.
You know, I don't know what would have happened if there wasn't chaos right off the bat. But I have to wonder if the initial chaos is what kind of fed the continuing chaos.
I think so.
Because it got weirder.
I don't see Kansas City jumping up that much if that doesn't happen. I mean, it just everything that happened was just so bonkers.
It was like there was a run on the bank. You know, when people get worried about their money.
I get the whole Houston and Watson thing. I mean, that makes sense.
That was a no-brainer.
That makes sense.
Houston's best quarterback is Tom Savage. You know, for who Tom Savage is, I give him a lot of credit. That dude played at 3 different colleges. Nobody thought he was going to do anything, and he's been in the NFL for 3 years now. Cool. But he can't be your option, especially when you made the playoffs last year and you have a really good defense. You're going to get J.J. Watt back. You've got to be able to put something forward. You got to do that. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And, I mean, you have some, some weapons there on offense, you know, DeAndre Hopkins and stuff. I mean,
I've heard he's talented.
Yeah, you picked up Miller from Miami last year, and he did really well for you.
All you were missing was a quarterback. Look at that game against New England in the playoffs. If that game happens with a different quarterback, New England does not win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Savage isn't hurt.
They don't get out of that game. They put New England in the most uncomfortable spot they could be in. They forced 3 turnovers. Brady threw 2 picks. 2. They fumbled at the goal line.
That was just in the first half.
But they didn't have a quarterback. So, yes, nothing about Houston surprised me. But Kansas City, when I think of Andy Reid teams, we will tell the jokes in a second because I've got a bunch of those, but they also don't take a lot of risks. They don't really put themselves out there to be in a tough position. That'll run out the window last night because now, I mean, what's your message? What's your message to the fans? If you're Kansas City, what's your message to your players? What is your message to your quarterback? What are you saying? When I look at windows open or closed, I know this is kind of a silly conversation because the window, whether it's open or not, is debatable. But Kansas City's made the playoffs the last few years. And they've done it in impressive fashion a couple of times, and it felt like they were just a couple players away. But when I feel that, I didn't feel like they were a quarterback away. I'm not saying Alex Smith is the best, but as far as a playoff caliber quarterback goes, he's one of them. So now, what is everybody in Kansas City thinking? Like, what do you do now? What the hell just happened? That was so bizarre. And Stacey, they didn't move up like 2 or 3 picks. No. 17. Were they 27? And they went to 10?
Yeah.
Over half of the first round, they moved forward. They gave up a first-round draft pick. You already have a quarterback.
And it was, I mean, Nick Foles went there last year during the offseason, you know, as a reliable backup. You know, so it's not a position that they were hurting at that they needed to fill.
You think they're going to trade one of them? I mean, is that
what
you're doing?
I believe Foles only signed a 1-year contract.
No, he's gone.
Yeah, so he's gone.
But do you trade one of the other 2? You don't need that. You have too much. I wonder the same thing about the Bears. What are you going to do with all of them? You have, in this day and age in the NFL.
So you think a team could put a package together now to trade with Kansas City to pick up Mahomes. I mean, I don't see that happening.
No, I don't think you trade the rookie.
No, you traded Alex Smith?
Well, who is going to be more valuable? And look, if you moved up 17 spots to take Patrick Mahomes the second, you better be damn sure he's a good player.
Then you're telling me he's coming in and starting day one.
He is a top 10 quarterback. That is the expectation in today's NFL. Now, I know you didn't see that in Los Angeles, but you did see it in Philadelphia. Yes. Now, look, I'm not saying Mahomes is ready for that, but when you're spending that kind of money and that kind of pick on a quarterback, when you move like that, he's got to be ready now. So I think that's exactly right.
Hey, listen, Andy Reid, he's never been one to open up the playbook and just throw the ball all over the place. And that's kind of what Patrick Mahomes does. He just sprays the ball all over the field.
That's what he's used to doing. Because in that system at Texas Tech.
And he's somebody who can throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field, which Alex Smith is not capable of doing.
That's true. So, but again, Stacey, I get your point. You're saying, like, is this kid ready? You don't move up 17 spots. You don't give up next year's first-round draft pick. You don't do that with Alex Smith already on your roster if he's not. So they better be damn sure he's ready.
And I guess you're talking because you have a guy like Jeremy Maclin. I know he's not what he used to be, but he's still a really good receiver. Man. And Tyreek Hill. My gosh, you want to talk about some speed.
Yeah. I mean, I have
so
some
if you can throw the ball 40 yards down the field,
he can catch
he
it.
can outrun anybody and go catch it.
That's right. So the more you talk, Stacey, are you not thinking maybe they should trade Alex Smith?
I get that, but you're talking about Alex Smith, who is a former number 1 pick and has been a more than capable starter in the NFL for 13 years now.
But again, so are you telling me this is their future plan? Like, is this Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre? I don't know. They gave up a ton to do it. So I've got to be thinking that there is, I mean, is this going somewhere or is it just a crazy dead-end plan?
Or does Andy Reid feel he doesn't have much time left there? Hey, let's go and do some weird stuff here.
Usually if you feel like you don't have much time left, you try to win a Super Bowl right now, which I think that would probably be a long shot for them, but this feels like they're throwing in the towel a little bit. Like they've done well in the playoffs to a point. They've done well in the regular season to a point, but they've not been able to cross that threshold and really make a statement. So are they saying, well, I don't think the orientation, the setup of this roster is going to do it. So we're not really giving up. We're not going to let you know that's what we're doing, but that's what it says to me. We had this conversation for like an hour yesterday when it comes to the Cardinals and what they were going to do. If they took a player that wasn't a quarterback, now the situation changed, but if they took a player that wasn't a quarterback, they were playing for now or drafting for now, and if they took a quarterback, they're drafting for later. Now, that changed because of the absurdity of quarterback run before them, but...
What do you think about the Cardinals picking up a guy like Alex Smith?
I don't know, because is that what their plan is, to just pick up relatively old quarterbacks and run with them in perpetuity?
I mean, you consider Alex Smith, he's a guy that will, for the foreseeable future, for the next 4 or 5 years, be a somewhat reliable starter for you.
Yeah. Right. My fear would be for somebody like the Cardinals, I worry about the price tag. Well, and that's the thing. People keep saying, oh, the Patriots don't want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Wrong. Everybody needs to stop saying that. They are running up the price. Keep saying no until you finally hear that magic word that says, "Ooh, I'll do that deal." Because again, if they,
I don't want Garoppolo though.
No. I'm not. I'm just saying they're not going to keep Garoppolo through next year because they get nothing for him.
Yeah.
Teams will give you their left arm for him right now. Now they want the left arm and your right wrist, and eventually they'll get it. Let's take a quick phone call before we go to the break. 298-1490. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm a big Viking fan. I fell in love with them a long time ago. They came down to Tucson, Arizona when their field was frozen, and was love at first sight when I saw those horns. But,
cool.
So I heard they moved up and got Devin Cook, the running back out of Florida?
Florida State, yes.
Florida State. And what do you guys think of that move? And what did they have to give up to get that?
Hey, Tony, thanks for the phone call. I didn't see the trade details, but look, Adrian Peterson is gone. He is in New Orleans, right? And they knew that. Boy, I tell you, Stacey, Dalvin Cook is a guy that I thought was going to go a lot higher. But because of Fournette, because of McCaffrey. He's one of the best running backs in the country. He was last year. And if I'm the Vikings, I know Teddy Bridgewater's status for next season is in jeopardy, at least for the beginning. They don't know. But I really think that if you can combine over a long period of time Cook and Bridgewater in the backfield with a good offensive line, good to come for you. Let's take a break. Erica Weston joins us in studio next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. I am Zach Clark, great to be with you on this lovely Friday afternoon. We'll get back to, I shouldn't say back to, we haven't gotten to them yet, the D-backs, about 5:35. Big weekend for them. I know it's early, but NL West supremacy for now is on the line. We are joined in studio by Erica Weston. Erica, second trip upstairs this week.
I know. I hope your viewers aren't like super annoyed. I'm sorry, your listeners.
I-
Sorry, guys, but I'm back.
Well, I didn't know. See, what we didn't tell Ryan was that there are loose rules around here, and we like to have you at the end of the week.
Loose, but not really rules, because
Well, clearly
here
not
I
rules
am
because
twice a week.
and they weren't followed to begin with. So
Yeah.
yes. Well, thank you for making that second trip upstairs. We greatly
Happy to.
appreciate it. Did you enjoy the ride that was the first on the NFL draft last night?
It was pretty crazy.
It was crazy.
It was pretty crazy. And I was telling Finley on Wednesday when I came up, like, the draft had sort of lost its luster for me. I
Still feel that way?
I don't know. It was pretty it was pretty crazy. The drama was not in short supply. That's for sure.
No, and that's the thing. I was talking to somebody else earlier about how the drama is really what makes it, and there was so much unpredictability going in. Though I would argue there's always unpredictability, but there's something about last night ultimately that made it just different. And there were so many things that happened, not that it made me surprised, but it surprised everybody.
Oh, yeah. I think the Bears situation probably sort of surprised everybody, but now we know 2 weeks ago they were working out this quarterback. It wasn't a surprise to them.
No, they knew
that they were going to screw themselves over, it sounds like. And now they're backpedaling.
Hey, what are you doing next week? Hey, let's screw ourselves over. Oh, great
Sounds
idea.
good. Sign me up. I'm there. Yeah.
Somebody call the Niners.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Texans killed it with the Deshaun Watson pick.
That was one of the smarter picks of the. I think my favorite pick of the top 10 was Christian McCaffrey going to Carolina because
Tear.
I know you
Tear.
knew he was never going to fall to Denver, though.
I knew he wasn't going to fall, but I thought Adam Schefter had tweeted, because we know he's like got all the good information.
Usually he does.
He
Yes.
does.
Yes.
That they were sniffing around and thinking about
Moving up?
because they had the third most picks in the draft.
Right. So they had
So
equity.
they could have done it.
Sure.
And they needed that speed on the offensive side. And how great would it have been for McCaffrey to be on the same team that his dad played on too?
Yes.
And now he has to be with Cam Newton, whom we have a little bit of history with, even though we beat his butt up in the Super Bowl. But like,
close.
they're going to kill it together.
Oh, yeah, no,
that
that's-
is such an awesome duo.
Yeah. I mean, the size, the speed, the just athletic ability between those two is going to keep defenses just.
It takes a lot of the pressure off of Cam, which he needed because he got the crap kicked
Oh my
out
God!
of him
Last
all
year
year.
was horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
he got murdered.
I mean, McCaffrey is kind of those once in a lifetime backs. I think,
Well,
anyways.
and he is, because you can use him in the backfield, you can put him in the slot as a wide
Exactly.
receiver, and he can return kicks.
Exactly, he can do so much for them.
Right, so you have a multi-tool guy. So you mentioned speed on the offensive side of the ball. You're a Denver Broncos girl. I got to say,
We bleed orange and blue, Zach.
with Garrett, I'll call you on that. Cut yourself open. Let me see.
Okay.
No. I'll pass out. Don't do that. When I see blood, I pass out. Please don't do that.
Even if it was orange and blue? Anyways.
I don't know.
I
Probably.
might just get weirded out.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I would for sure be weirded out if you lit. I'd be calling somebody.
Yeah.
So you look at Garrett Bowles and you get speed, you get athleticism. He's just a left tackle.
I know, and I guess they kind of needed to do that to
They
sort
did.
of to battle with Ty Sombrilo, because he, really wasn't the answer last year. But then again, the quarterback that he was protecting might have not been the answer either. So, can I just say that I'm such a hypocrite in terms of
Awesome.
as a Broncos fan. I'm like, this is great. He's gonna get a second chance. He worked so hard to get here.
Right.
Everybody deserves a second chance,
Right.
and then here I am totally judging the Raiders for taking Conley.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. When there was so much talk last night about character, and it's really, really important. You
Yeah.
know, there's talk now. Joe Mixon is in the
Yeah.
draft, and I don't know if I've not been paying attention to
When
the
I
last-
came up here, he had not been
Okay.
off the board.
So, and I understand with Mixon it's different because we saw
There's
what happened.
video evidence of
There's
it
no
over and over.
Yeah, what the Oakland Raiders did. Now I know we live in America; we're innocent until proven guilty. But I mean, that was less than a month ago.
Yeah.
It was this month, and
Yeah.
they just.
And I'm glad that, they said that the Ravens gave him the lie detector test,
And he passed.
And he passed it, and that's huge.
good,
That's
that's good.
great. But I was listening on the radio last night, coming back from an assignment, and they were saying there's this whole next to the draft board. There's this whole other board that's the do not draft guys.
Yeah, the yes and no.
Exactly. And at that point, nobody had come off the list. Then again, a couple picks later, that's when Conley was taken. But I don't know. I guess we can be happy in the fact that the league is progressing towards zero tolerance in that sort of respect. And yes, they are innocent until proven guilty, but it's just so hard in the NFL right now because there's so many offenders.
Yeah, and also, like, you want to strike a balance between, I understand the law and the rule of law and the way it works in this country, and I have no problem with it, but just because something is law doesn't mean you can't have a rule that is more specific. Where if you even find yourself in a situation like this. But again, you say, well, that's not fair because what if he didn't do anything?
Yeah.
The problem is, and it's a big problem, is that the league's image, it precedes itself. And so because they've had so many problems, I'm going to look at everybody like that and go,
I'm not really sure. It's so unfair.
I don't know what to do. It puts me in a really horrible spot. Like, I want to be like, screw you, guy. I think you're disgusting. Get out.
Yeah.
But then it's
but
like...
then if he's drafted to your team, it's like, oh, I don't know.
Well, or not even that. It's like, but what if he didn't do it? I'm not talking about
really
Mixon. I'm not talking about Mixon.
Because we know that he did.
We all saw it. I mean, we all saw it.
Incredibly egregious.
So you're right. The character issues or the way that we perceive them certainly changes by our support or not, but also based on what we think individually morally is right or wrong or worse or not.
Yeah, the NFL's got a couple of image issues, and I don't know how long it's going to take for them to work through that if they ever can.
I don't think they can, and I don't think they really want to.
Yeah, and once the draft kind of wraps everything up, all of these issues will sort of go back down. They're just bubbling up now because this is the time when all the eyes are on the league.
Right. Yeah. And especially when they're combing you with a fine-toothed brush.
Oh,
to make
unbelievably so.
To make sure they don't find, you getting high out of a gas mask bong like Laramie Tunsil last year. And I've said this before. My only judgment of Laramie Tunsil is he 12 getting high for the first time? Who uses one of those things?
I saw that picture again for the first time in a long time a couple of days ago. And I was like, oh my God, it's so jarring.
Idiot. You're just going, oh, dude.
Like, who took the picture? Why? Just why?
And the whole thing with, was it his stepdad or his dad that was trying to like sabotage him because they weren't that whole
that's a whole nother layer of issues that
so we had drama last year like that.
Yeah,
this year the drama came on the draft board itself, which if I'm going to have drama I prefer it to be that way. Hardest part about Shelby Miller's injury as we shift gears here?
I think the hardest part for him is that he was figuring stuff out.
Felt like
such a crap year the year before, and he was really starting to trend in the right direction. And the only thing that I can think of, just because it's the most recent memory I have, somebody with a similar injury was Brandon McCarthy about 2 years ago now at this point, and he was out almost a year and a half. He came back at the All-Star break with the UCL tear. He did undergo the Tommy John, and when he came back last year around the All-Star break, he was a disaster. He was throwing behind the batter. He's done tremendous this year, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Shelby Miller's if
that's like 2 years.
If he proceeds with surgery with the Tommy John, you're looking at a lengthy recovery process.
But if you're him, last year was a wash, but I think he's only 25.
Yeah.
So my thing is, when you talk about the Tommy John surgery, Tommy John is two things. One, it's a lifesaver. Before this surgery existed, you were done forever.
Yeah, it was game over.
But you're never going to come back the same way. Most people don't, at least. The odds are very slim. But then there are other options you can try.
The good news, though, is that Tommy John has come so far since its first initiation into Major League Baseball. It has. Yeah, there's guys that have had two that are, can still pitch from the bullpen. They're not going to be a starting pitcher.
No.
There have been, certain instances, but I'm glad that he hasn't completely decided for the Tommy John surgery, that he's looking into alternative methods, but it always comes back to the surgery.
I think when you're faced with it, you almost always end up with it. And
the sooner he makes that decision, the better.
Well, that's the thing, is that you don't want to make a hasty choice, but like you said, you're not throwing away, but you're foregoing at least a year and a half of your career, maybe two, to come back in full. But if you wait 6 months and then have to get it, now you've given up 2.5 years.
If he waits 6 months to finally decide, hey, I need surgery, that's ridiculous.
Well, he won't, but
Matt Harvey did that too. He did the rehab, and then he just, okay, I guess I need to have surgery. That was, I credit for not immediately going to the surgery, but you have to decide sooner than that.
Yeah, I don't know how much time you can waste, and then if you look, I'm sure they are able to kind of map this out and say, all right, if I do it now, because you want to come back coming into spring, hopefully, right? So I have a month to figure this out, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll be very curious to see what he does, and as we talk about that on the negative, I can't believe I'm going to say this, and you being from Denver will understand this too. This weekend with the Rockies, I know it's early in the year. for first place in the division.
Just how we had planned it.
Everybody
right?
had that. But I keep hearing questions about, is the division being turned upside down? My answer is yes for now. I just wonder, can one of these two teams hold on going forward?
If there is one of these two teams that's more likely to hold on, I do kind of lean towards the Diamondbacks.
Even with Shelby Miller being...
Even with Shelby Miller on the shelf, I think they have a little bit more options. They've been hitting the ball so well, and the pitching outside of that has been pretty great. I feel like they're just on the right track right now. And I said this with Finley on Wednesday. Everybody's waiting for the Diamondbacks to sort of come back to earth, come back to life, to come back to being the Diamondbacks. What if they don't? And at this point, I know we're only a month in, but they've done enough to make me think, okay, they're gonna be up there competing. I think the Dodgers are sort of starting to trend upwards a little bit.
I do too.
So they're gonna be there. I think the Rockies will fall back. But
San Francisco's in trouble.
San Francisco's, they're done. You can forget about that.
They're in trouble. By the way, to nobody's surprise, joining Pac-Man Jones and Vontez Burfict, Joe Mixon goes to Cincinnati.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah, they've got a thing for...
So he's off the board, huh?
He is off the board early in the second round. So not going to the combine probably cost him some money on the front side. And that was the thing with me. And I don't want to get too deep into this because we've already gone. But with Joe Mixon, I don't think it should rule him out from being employed, but it makes it harder for him to get a job.
That's probably better.
Well,
and at least, he wasn't taken in the first round, which if you're somebody that was campaigning for him to not get drafted at all, I guess it's sort of a win.
Well, and plus people keep saying, all you need to do is get drafted. It doesn't matter where you go. And there's a truth to that because you just want the opportunity.
Right.
But let's not forget that you're paid by your slot.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you're talking about like a $15 million signing bonus or like an $8,000 signing bonus, I think it matters where you get paid.
Absolutely.
That's just me, though. What do I know about? I've never been...
you haven't been drafted?
No, and nor has anybody ever offered me like $1 million signing bonus, so I don't. I'm still waiting on that one. KGUN 9 sports reporter and anchor Erica Weston can be found holding down the KGUN Sports Desk Saturdays and Sundays 5 and 10 on Twitter at Erica L. Weston. Erica, thank you.
Happy to be here.
We'll talk Diamondbacks next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. Man, Stacy, you just got roasted. Man, I wish y'all would have heard that. Dude, as Erica was leaving.
She's so awesome.
Oh, man, the best. Dude, she roasted you. That was great. Oh, boy. And we were talking during
She gave me a love you too, though, so.
Oh, I thought that was the finger. I couldn't tell. She got out of here so quickly. We were talking during the break still. That whole thing with Joe Mixon, again, we've talked about this before, and I want to get to the Diamondbacks, but, like, Stacey, I struggle, man. Like, I struggle with that. I don't struggle with knowing what I saw is incredibly disgusting.
Yes.
And that nobody should ever even think to do that.
Yes.
Right? Again, I've got a mother. I love her dearly. I have a sister whom I adore. And there are many very influential women in my life. I'm married to a beautiful one. I would never even think of that. I was raised differently. But, and there's no buts. That's all true. I wonder, what is the adequate punishment for something like that? Not in the court of law. That's already all been done or worked through. Mm-hmm. But, like, the appropriate social punishment, whether it be how you can work or the restitutions you pay to, not me individually, but to society, for us to know that when you say that you've changed and when you say that you know what you did is wrong, how do I know that? And I used Michael Vick as an example during the break. We were talking to Erica. I thought Michael Vick, what he did was horrible. I know you're not a dog person, Stacey, but you know that I am. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not a dog person, electrocuting animals in water is bad. Right? You don't have to love dogs to understand that. But the work that he did with and around animals post-prison, I thought was very telling that, yes, he made mistakes. No, there's no explaining them, but that he learned. Look, we all made mistakes. Have I made ones that big? No, but there are things that I wish I had never done, and I can't erase them. I can only act differently as a result of them. So with guys like, you talked about how good Tyreek Hill is, Stacey, and I have no objection to that statement. He is amazing. But I wonder if the faster he runs and the more touchdowns he scores, does it distance himself from striking that woman? And with Joe Mixon, if he has success, will that do the same? I'm not asking that they never are able to work again, Stacey. I wonder, like, what's the limit? Should we make it hard for you to get a job? Should we make it impossible?
Well, here's the thing.
Is there restitution?
You said it. We all make mistakes.
Oh, my God.
Things happen.
So many of them.
I believe everybody deserves a second chance.
I do, too. If not for second chances, I'm not sitting right here today.
But here's the 100%. Thing.
100%.
Did you learn from your mistake? Did you improve on it? And not just learn from your mistake, did you make it better? Did you try to make other lives better?
Right.
In what you did wrong?
Right. Like, so what I would like to see Joe Mixon do or Tyreek Hill do, and they don't have to do anything. They can do whatever they want. But work with females, with families that have been affected by domestic violence, with children, so that somebody else may not have to deal with what you put somebody through.
Yes.
And that's hard. It takes a real adult to confront a horrible thing they did and work with it. Because when you see that, all it does is brings it up. It brings it up. And you feel bad. You feel guilty. You feel like garbage. But you should feel that way. It should. And that will help you.
And I know it's hard to say, but, in 3 years, are we going to be talking about this kind of stuff with these guys? Or all we're going to talk about is...
Should we be? Should we be?
We should.
I don't know.
But are we going to remember it? Are we going to remember what they did in 3 years whenever they put up 15 touchdowns in a season?
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. And so, but at what point, though, do you...
And then what did they do in those 3 years to help rectify their wrongs?
And that's what I'm really curious about. I don't need you to tell me things. Anybody can say anything. Man, I can Google Translate and speak Mandarin Chinese for a few minutes. No problem. I might not be able to read it, but I can do that. I can say anything. But what you do, who you are, is not defined by what you say. It's defined by what you do, and it's really defined by how other people look at you. I think about that a lot. How do people look at me? Oh, there's that loud guy from the radio that nobody likes. Maybe that's how it is, or maybe, hey, there's that guy that entertains us on the way home. We like him. I'm not going to always act because I think you're thinking about me a certain way, but that's how we're judged. Oh, only God can judge me. BS. I'm judging you too. People love to say that. It doesn't work that way. So I wrestle with it, Stacey, because I don't ever want people to believe that is okay, that there's anything you can do to justify.
There is no way you can justify
That is
what
correct.
they have done.
But no
No
buts.
way.
You can't. But I also think that if they can show that they've changed, they shouldn't have to walk around forever.
No. But that goes back to how are they making restitution for their wrongs?
And so if the NFL is going to say things like, well, we don't like this. We think this is wrong. And I'm not suggesting the NFL should restrict their ability to gain employment. I don't think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Equal opportunity employer. Though if you're convicted of a felony, things change. But he wasn't. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But that doesn't mean the NFL can't say something like, okay, you maybe not have been convicted of breaking the law, but I believe you have broken our rules, our moral code of conduct. And when you say that with the NFL, you have to laugh a little bit because it's almost an oxymoron. But then, so because you've done what you've done, here's what you have to do if you want to work with us. Think about it like probation.
Well, that's
Here's what you have to do, and if you don't do it, you're out.
look at our job. There are things that we have to do working in our profession that you might not have to do in other jobs, that you might not have to do working somewhere else.
Well, you talking about like running an EAS test?
Running an EAS test, watching some of the language we use,
Oh, right.
things of that nature.
Sure.
It's a situation where if we break those rules, they're not against the law.
Well, some of them are because
Well-
the FCC makes the law and the rules, but yes. Yeah.
But there are other things that
There are things
we can get suspended or
Fired.
fired for
Oh, sure.
that are not necessarily against the law.
I mean, if I said something overtly offensive, which I never would, or racist on Twitter, I'm gone. I didn't break any law. There's no law that says you can't be a jerk on Twitter. But my company says, I don't want that jerk on Twitter representing this brand. Mm-hmm. You're not. Because that's what Joe Mixon now not only represents the city of Cincinnati, the Bengals organization, but he also represents the 32 owners and the shield that he wears on the back of his helmet. That's it. So if you're okay with that gentleman, the way that he is now representing you as a league, go for it.
And here's the situation. Okay, this happened once. If this happens a second time or a third time,
Third time? There is no third time.
well, no, what are you going to do in these situations?
Well, that's it. And here's the thing.
You need to, as a league,
He needs to enter with
set
a strike.
some precedents.
Well, I think he needs to enter
where-
with a strike. If we're doing 3 strikes, they don't start now.
Yeah.
You already got one. Well, I wasn't here. It doesn't matter. We all know who you are. Everybody knows what happened. Right? You look at Tyreek Hill, he didn't end up at Arkansas State because he's not fast, because he's not talented. He ended up there because he did something really stupid and paid the price for it. And so I guess my ultimate question is, what is restitution for an unspeakable crime? That it's not murder, but it's disgusting. What do you do? How can you show that I yes, that was me, but it's not anymore? And I think part of the problem people have, because these guys are young, right, when it happens, they don't have good answers at the beginning, or they have not the best apologies. I'm not brushing it aside, but we got to believe that you're sorry. And he doesn't owe me anything. I'm not his employer. I'm not his manager. I'm just some dude a couple thousand miles away that thinks he's maybe not the most highly
and that's the
reputable.
thing. The best way to make me believe
Joe.
you are sorry
Joe.
is showing me.
How does he do it? But that's the question. How does the NFL? I think the NFL needs to make them show it. How do they do that? Is it diversion programs? Is
And
it
that's where
charity? Is it? But look, man.
I don't think they can do that because the Players Association is going to come and say,
Oh,
hey,
yeah? You think the players are going to fight? So here's the leverage the NFL has there. The NFLPA fights back and says, we don't want to do that. And then the NFL says, oh, you don't care about domestic violence? You don't care about victims? And the NFLPA says, you know what? I think we can make that work. Nobody's going to go against domestic violence. Or I should say nobody's going to go for it.
Well,
Because that's the way you put
and the
them in.
problem with that is, okay, now you're making him do this stuff. He's not doing it of his own free will.
That's okay, though. I know that you want him to want. Well, hold on.
But has he really changed
Well,
then?
hold on. I understand. You want him of his own free will to say, this is what I should do to make it right. But I wonder in the forcing of things, if he couldn't learn something in the process, if he couldn't gain perspective, if he couldn't get in touch with a different reality. Whether he wanted to be there or not, he still helped these women, these families, and maybe something rubbed off on him. I mean, think about people that are on probation. You think those guys cleaning up the highway will want to do it? No. Do they do it? Does it make it a better place? Yeah. Is it perfect? No. And that's the thing. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be having this conversation because he wouldn't have punched her in the first place. Sorry we get into this, but it had to be said because there's so much talk about him and others, and this won't be the last time, unfortunately. Sickeningly, it will not be. So I'm trying to figure out where the line is. Where do we draw the line? Or how do we prove that they've learned? More of the Zach Clark Show is next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. I am Zach Clark. Great to be with you as we wrap up the week here on the Zach Clark Show. We're back tomorrow, or I should say Monday in full. We'll have short shows next week. The Diamondbacks go east. Where are they going, States? Our nation's capital?
That is correct.
So short show on Tuesday and Wednesday. They'll be an hour, and then they'll be in Colorado on – do they have 2 off days? Oh, no. A getaway game on Thursday.
Yeah.
So full show Monday, Thursday, 1 hour show Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 hour show on Friday.
Yep.
I think I got that.
That is correct.
Excellent. Very good. So we on the show with the last calls. We always do. And I've been thinking about a lot of different things lately. Those of you that have been following along know that within the last year I've become a dad and now a husband. And most of you know this. In fact, all of you know it because no matter what you do in life, things change. To me, though, it has become almost unbelievable how my life has changed. And I've gone through big life changes before. I'm going to be 32 here in 6 weeks or so. But I look at landmarks, not necessarily in like, oh, that's a mountain and over there's that flagpole, but like landmarks in time. When I first got to Tucson in 2007, I was 22 years old. I had never gone to college, and I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. No idea. Like, not a clue. The second time I came to Tucson, I was a college graduate, and I had a career. But I was single. I had no idea what the rest of my life would hold outside of radio, right? I was clueless. And then I look at now, where I still have the same career, which is great, but I have a almost 14-month-old son, and I'm married. And like I rewind like 2 years, and none of that was even in the cards. I mean, I was with Carrie at the time, but we weren't thinking about getting married yet. We hadn't been together that long. These aren't complaints, by the way. I'm not complaining. These are marvels. I'm marveling, not to be into myself, but I'm marveling that life can change as much as it does. It seems impossible that I could go in the span of just, a couple of years from one person to a completely different person. I mean, I'm still me. My personality hasn't changed too much. I still talk too much. I'm still brash and abrasive and cranky at times. That's not going to change. But my perspective, what's important to me, has changed to the point where I couldn't even tell you what used to be important. And those of you, well, all of you understand that, whether you have kids or a family or not. My life didn't change necessarily because of my family. Certainly that was a big change, but I don't know. Maybe it's just I grew up, and maybe it took a little longer than it should have. Maybe it didn't happen until I was 28, 29. Some of you grow up when you're 12. Some of you grow up when you're 18. Some of you are not going to. It's just reality, not going to grow up. But I guess the old cliche, which most of them are old and tired anyway, but that you really do when it comes to life. I mean, you can't be a spectator, right? It's a full contact sport, life is, but I guess you do really just have to buckle up sometimes and enjoy the ride. And if getting married this past weekend taught me anything, it's that, like when you're riding a train, you want to turn inside towards the car and talk to your friend, but also you want to take a look outside the window and see what's going as you drive by. Because life moves forward. It's never going to move backwards. So you have to find a way to live in the moment and to enjoy the space you're in no matter where you are or what you're doing. Becoming comfortable in my own skin took 30 years, and I'm still not quite sure that I've completely achieved comfort in my own skin, but now that I have an identity, a father, a husband, I do feel more comfortable. But what the point of this all was, I want to thank all of you, and this is not a goodbye, I'm not going anywhere, but I want to thank everybody for sharing the last few years with me, because as this show has begun and where it sits today, I am nowhere near the person that I was before. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. I can't judge that. That's up to the rest of you and whoever you believe in upstairs. But I had to say that the ever-changing world in which we live sometimes, man, does it change? Does it change? I want to thank Eric Rhodes, Chris Hill, and Erica Weston all for sharing some time with us on this Friday afternoon. Thank you, Charles, in the call screening room, and of course, Stacy right across from me. And y'all, the smartest, the most beautiful in all of sports talk radio. Get out there, enjoy your weekend. We'll meet again on Monday at 3 o'clock. ESPN Tucson, 1490, 104.9 FM.